that will shape our national security and regional justice system. The status of visiting forces agreement between the Philippines and Canada, the status of visiting forces agreement between the Philippines and New Zealand, and the ASEAN Treaty on Extradition. The focus is shifting its defense strategy by opening our doors to middle powers like Canada and New Zealand. We are building a broader coalition to secure the Indo-Pacific and improve our disaster response. But let me be clear. Hosting foreign troops is never just a routine administrative matter. It's a profound issue of sovereignty. Today, this committee will scrutinize the fine print. We will ask the hard questions, specifically on the criminal justice or criminal jurisdiction, custody, inviolability, and on true reciprocity. Next, we tackle the ASEAN Treaty on Extradition, modern crime for cybercrime or cyber fraud to human trafficking has no borders. This treaty is designed to close the net on fugitives in our regional backyard, but we will demand assurances. We must ensure this treaty is used to catch actual criminals and never weaponized for political persecution across Asia. To our resource persons, the Senate recognizes the hard work your departments have put into negotiating these treaties. However, our constitutional mandate requires us to test the strength, fairness, and absolute necessity of these agreements. We expect straightforward answers today. We now proceed with the hearing proper, with the indulgence of our resource persons. We will proceed as follows. First, we shall allow resource persons to deliver their statement and presentations. Please limit your presentations to at most 3 minutes. Refrain from reading the whole text of your position paper. Otherwise, you can just submit it to this committee, your position paper. Then our senators, once they're here, will be given the opportunity to ask questions and seek clarification. And those senators who will be joining us and have not given their opening statement may do so before asking their questions. Let us now proceed with the decision of the agreement or discussion of the agreement between the Philippines and Canada on the status of visiting forces agreement between the Philippines and New Zealand and the status of visiting forces agreement. Director Sue, there are other agencies that will present today.
Yes, Your Honor, we will have the Department of Foreign Affairs to present first, followed by the Department of National Defense.
Thank you. Go ahead, DFA, Attorney Mandap.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Chair and the members of the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, colleagues. My name is Anthony Mandap. I am the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the DFA Office of Treaties and Legal Affairs. Thank you for inviting the Department of Foreign Affairs to appear before this esteemed committee to assist in the review of the ASEAN Treaty on Extradition, the Philippines, New Zealand's SOBFA, and the Philippines-Canada SOBFA. Now, the three treaties subject of Senate concurrence today. The first is the ASEAN Treaty on Extradition, which was signed on the 14th of November 2025 in Manila, the Philippines. On the 13th of April 2026, the instrument of ratification signed by the President was transmitted to the Senate of the 20th Congress for its concurrence. The treaty seeks to strengthen the region's capability to fight or prevent crime or intensify law enforcement through a mechanism to extradite criminal suspects or convicted criminals hiding behind international borders or escaping to foreign jurisdictions to evade penalty or prosecution. The treaty also seeks to enable each ASEAN member state to effect the extradition of individuals for the purpose of prosecution, sentencing, or enforcement of sentence imposed from other AMS or ASEAN member states where those individuals may be located. And the third is to strengthen the region's commitment against criminality and in furthering regional integration through seamless legal cooperation in criminal matters. For a more detailed discussion on the highlights and benefits of this treaty, we shall defer to the Department of Justice, which is the implementing agency and central authority of the Philippines for extradition. Now, the second treaty is the Philippines-New Zealand SOVFA, or agreement between the government of the Republic of the Philippines and the government of New Zealand on the status of visiting forces, which was signed on April 30, 2025 in Manila. The President ratified the SOVFA with New Zealand on April 13, 2026, and proceeded to endorse it to the Senate of the 20th Congress on the same date. The SOVFA sets the terms for agreed upon cooperative activities between the AFP, the Armed Forces of the Philippines, and the New Zealand Defense Force and their civilian components in each other's territories. It aims to improve the country's rapid response capability for disaster preparedness and will enhance military capabilities through joint training, infrastructure development, and equipment sharing, as well as strengthen joint capabilities to combat threats to global and regional supply chains. The third, the Philippines-Canada SOVFA, which is the last treaty for consideration today. It is also called the Agreement between the Government of the Republic of the Philippines and the Government of Canada concerning the status of visiting forces of each state in the territory of the other state, which was signed on November the 2nd, 2025 in Manila. The President ratified the SOVFA on March 26, 2026, and then endorsed the same to the Senate of the 20th Congress. The SOVFA with Canada lays down the legal framework governing the status of the sending states visiting forces in its civilian component while in the territory of the receiving state for the conduct of joint defense and humanitarian activities. It also sets the parameters for the use of defined land and sea areas, airspace, or facilities of the receiving state for mutually agreed upon cooperative activities. And lastly, the SOVFA underscores the protection of the environment, cultural and indigenous peoples' heritage, as well as human health and safety in the conduct of cooperative activities. For the details of the two SOVFAs subject of today's discussion, the DFA shall defer to the representatives of the various concerned agencies, such as the Department of National Defense, the PCVF, and the DOJ. With that, Mr. Chair, we submit everything for the committee's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Mandap. My first question will be, how many visiting forces agreement do we have now? And which countries do we have agreement?
This will be the fourth and fifth SOVFAs, Mr. Chair.
Po ano po ba?
Of course,
meron po
we
tayo.
already have one with the US, Australia, and Japan.
US, Australia, and Japan.
Opo.
All right. Okay. Now, my next question is, what are the provisions under the SOVFA of Canada and New Zealand na wala po sa SOVFA ng United States or Australia? Would you happen to know?
On this question, Your Honor, we yield to the
Defense
of
Department?
Defense.
Yeah, okay. Let me redirect my question to Secretary Chidoro then. Would you happen to know, Secretary, what are the provisions of SOVFA of Canada and New Zealand that are not in the SOVFA of Australia and the United States?
Your Honor,
Is
there's
there any?
substantially no difference except for differences in the criminal processes of the distinct countries, because we have templates on both the common law system very, very carefully with prevention of offenses.
President, Mr. Chair, if there is already a matrix among
Yes,
the
Your
three,
Honor. Yes, Your
has it
Honor.
been presented, the matrix?
No, Your Honor, we did not
is
present the matrix.
The and in chronology, the Australian SOVFA, and then the Japan VFA, which is fairly new, and then this new proposed status of
The,
forces agreement.
The
In short, ano lang ang kaibahan? Yeah.
in short, Your Honor, the Canada and New Zealand SOVFAs, because of their home legal systems, follow the Australian paradigm very closely. And New Zealand, Your Honor, always deploys as of this time together with Australia until it builds its expeditionary maritime capability. So it is always a joint force with Australia.
Marunong si Sec Kibo. Sinabi niya, kasi narinig niya ako nag-sponsor ng Australian SOFA eh. Tapos pag sinabi niyo, pareho naman yung New Zealand, o di syempre, papayag ako nag-sponsor nun eh. Yes. Oo.
Yung Canada
Yes.
po,
Yung
pareho
Canada.
din. Kasi
pareho.
hindi ba, crown
Yes.
Commonwealth country siya. Pero ang importante po sa Canada, ulitin ko po, dahil nakikita po natin, malawak ang lugar kung saan tayo pwede mag-cooperate, lalo na sa energy resources. Pero sa ngayon pa lang po, no, walang visiting forces agreement, napakalaki ng contribution nila sa atin sa cyber protection. Pero maliban po doon, they have a surplus of mineral resources that perhaps our country badly needs. And they can help us also develop our mineral resources in a responsible manner.
Sama ba yan sa visiting forces agreement?
Hindi po
Wala.
kasama, pero ito po ang purpose. Actually, one of the purposes, kaya maintindihan po natin
Because
yung context.
exploration of mines is
Hindi
not at
po.
all indicated.
Hindi po. Hindi po indicated, but you need to secure your supply chains to make this a viable activity. And you need freedom of navigation and the high seas. Without such, Your Honor, your costs of doing business, so to speak, will be exponentially higher because you take a risk.
Thank you for mentioning that, although that's not indicated at all, but it's a possibility, yes, and it's needed. What you're saying, that this is needed so that there's freedom of navigation, so that when this happens, exploration, etc., we set the pace for that. Is there, going to another front, the academic exchange, is it contemplated in the visiting forces agreement?
It's already happening, Your
Yes.
Honor, the
New
academic
Zealand and
exchange.
Canada?
Yes.
Because I
On
know
officer
Australia,
training.
marami sa atin nag-aaral sa Australia.
New
sa mga
Zealand po, marami po.
Marami
And
din.
Canada, meron na rin po.
Okay, when I say exchange, it's actually more of us sending our men and women there.
It is also valuable, Your Honor, because we have a lot of catching up to do in our military and defense educational system capabilities.
O yan, I'm sure hindi yan naka-itemize.
Hindi po
Pero
naka-itemize.
understood.
Pero personal advocacy po ng Department of National Defense and part of the international engagements. Dahil sa ngayon, ang higher education ng military at defense ay skills training pa rin, hindi research and multidisciplinary activities. Na kailangan natin i-endow yung mga scholars natin upang sa ganon magkaroon ng multidisciplinary approach to national defense and national security.
Even if it is not indicated in black and white in the fine print, are we assured that our officers, men and women, will have access and will be encouraged for scholarships in both New Zealand and Canada?
Yes, Your Honor. We
for
are
training?
assured just as long as they
Yes.
meet the minima.
Of course,
for-
requirements.
Because if they meet the minimum requirements, it is also a value added of any educational institution to have a member, regardless of nationality, to have peer-reviewed articles and research, which adds a rating to its academic rating.
So experts, lecturers coming to GS or CGSE to NDCP,
Actually,
and training there as well. I mean, pasensya na, Chair, ang dami kong tanong kasi this is so interesting. So, hindi lang yung scholars natin pupunta ron, lecturers at experts sila pupunta rito, at maari din bang mag-training doon o dito lang sa ating shores at sa land? ang
hindi ho,
training?
reciprocal po ito.
Reciprocal ito.
Opo.
Okay.
Pangalawa po, ang importante rin humakita natin, napakadami nating magagandang ideya dito. Hindi po natin, wala po tayong adequate laboratory for development and further testing of these, tawagin na natin, inventions. And secondly, pag ipinascale nyo na ang industrial production, dun ho nahihirapan ang inventions or technology natin na i-scale sa durability, quality, and production. Doon po kami pwede magtulungan kasi napaka-secure po ng space. And even po on actually we're already have initiatives going on for medical military medical health, wellness, and also in combat. Kasi ho, ang experience actually sa Ukraine, nakakalungkot, hospitals are not safe havens. So we have to redevise also where and how we treat battlefield injuries, Your Honor.
But before I end, when I will ask on the second round after I listen to the chair, kung halos pareho, sinasabi po nyo, yung Australian VFA with Canada and New Zealand, ano yung isang pagkakaiba kung meron man?
You may stress po sa environmental protection at saka indigenous people's rights po sa Canada dahil napakalaki po ng importansya sa kanila
Yes.
ng First Nations po nila.
So may stress, it is stressed in these two VFAs.
Yes, Your Honor.
Something
I
that
think
was
there is
silent.
mention also on Japan and Australia pero hindi po ganito ka-specific.
So that's favorable to us because
Yes,
we
Your
have our indigenous peoples
Yes,
as
Your
well.
Honor. And it
Yes.
is also a mandate of their own law
Yes.
that if they engage, they are mandated to do so under an ambit of environmental protection.
And just to be clear in the process, and the DOJ is here, who was the negotiating institution? Was it DOJ?
Kami po,
With the support of the DOJ.
yeah, with the
right?
support ho, because we needed to embark on really speedy convergence mechanisms.
No government institution is against this?
Wala po.
There's
so far.
full support.
Yes,
Okay.
Your Honor. Because
And if we have it with Australia and it's copy paste or very similar with Australia, and if it's merely strengthened the rights and protection of our indigenous people, so that's even better.
Yes, Your Honor. And also an assurance is, for example, with New Zealand, there are 100,000 Filipinos in New Zealand who are part of the New Zealand community who are advocating also for closer productive relations between our two countries. And as distant as it is, it has seen the need to converge because an important part of their supply line is this South China Sea and the West Philippine Sea. Na-ratify po siya noong March lang po.
Just this year. So both are just newly ratified. When
March
was it
26.
transmitted before ratification?
April.
April po. Very new po. At malaki po ang tulong si Chairman Tulfo sa pag-transmit po. Tama po yun na Madam, gawa na rin siguro ng iba't ibang attention at focus. Of course, primary attention namin, naintindihan naman. Bago na transmit, pero dun po sa susunod ng mga BFA, ihihilingin na po namin na bago namin pirmahan to, kailangan na ipayag na lahat kesa sa pipirmahan. Bago nyo pirmahan, pumayag na, tapos kukuha na naman ang concurrence, repetitive yung, hindi, within the executive.
Or any
Yeah, but to ratify,
agreement? Yes.
for me to get an authority to sign, Your Honor.
Yes.
Your Honor.
You
They
have to
should-
get
Yes.
all the
And then what I
agencies.
cannot understand in the previous BFAs, after signing, before the
You
ratification
have to
by the
ask the
president,
comments.
again,
Wait.
it's
You're-
as if, Your Honor, we don't know what we're doing.
the inputs of agencies must be given when you're negotiating. When you ratify it, because
Tapos na yun.
an agreement can
Pinayagan na ako.
only be approved or junked. You cannot revise it anymore because when you send it to us, we either concur in its ratification or reject it altogether. We cannot negotiate anymore.
Yes, Your
So
Honor.
all these agencies who want to put their fingers in your pie after you've ratified it should have been part of the negotiations
Yes,
and
Your
given the inputs to the negotiating entity.
Yes,
Hindi
Your
pwedeng pagka-ratify, pag nasa OP na, or worse, if it's here, then somebody says, no, we disagree. Why were you not there present? Why now? Oo, hindi pwede.
At saka may
Yeah.
template na nga po eh.
Yeah,
Na marami. So the
naging
less...
tagapagtanggol pa ako ninyo. Sige na. So,
Thirdly,
Oo.
Your Honor, I think the defense space is moving very, very rapidly. Very rapidly, faster than... and so, speed is necessary in this.
speed, kaya yan ng mga tulfo. Pwede pa niya yan i-sponsor na mamaya pag i-route na yung committee report, pag approve, pag-uusapan pa ba yan ginawa na to sa
Actually, Your
Australia,
Honor,
di ba?
with
Oh.
the legislature, starting from the first one I had the honor to participate in during my tenure with Japan, it was very, very speedy. It was very speedy, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lauren. With the indulgence of my colleague here, let's hear now from the Presidential Commission on Visiting Forces Agreement or Visiting Forces for your statement.
I found nothing.
There's not much to say anymore because the secretary has already said most of the things, or actually all of the things that we have undertaken before, because I am also part of the negotiating team. And I definitely concur with the SOPA with Canada and New Zealand, sir.
Thank you, Yusek Habulan. Let me now go to the Department of Environment. Let's hear your presentation because I have a few quick questions here, such as have you already coordinated with the Department of Defense or the Presidential Commission Visiting Forces Agreement pertaining to our environmental laws? Kasi meron pong isa tayong ka-treaty na medyo nakalimutan siguro, dumped about 189,500 liters of domestic waste and 760 liters of bilge water dumped in the Subic Bay. So I want to hear from you if ang ating DND, ang ating pong AFP, Department of Environment coordinated already with these two countries regarding our environmental laws. Go ahead, Department of Environment.
Hindi ko rin alam. Saan ang DNR?
Presentation, DNR. Is there a representative from DNR here? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Our resource speaker will be here in a while. He just went to the restroom for a little bit, Mr. Chair. If we can have a second call on this matter. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's hear first from the Department of Finance. If you have any presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Honorable Senator Rigarda. The Department of Finance, Your Honor, does not have a presentation, but we issued a certificate of concurrences to both the Canada and New Zealand SOFA, Your Honor.
Committee Secretary. Okay, Department of Finance, I have just one quick question. Ano po mga budget implications po nito sa pagpasok natin sa Visiting Forces Agreement with two or more countries once we concur the SOFAs with Canada and New Zealand? How much do we have to spend? Nabanggit po kanina ni Defense Secretary yung tungkol po sa mga damages. What are we looking at?
Your Honor, when we review the proposed agreement, we're looking at possible foregone revenues from duties and taxes on the imported military hardware and supplies. But although we are looking at possible foregone revenues, Your Honor, we are also looking at a possible. We're looking also at a possible inflow of activities, economic activities, due to the for instance, a balikatan activity in our area. So we're looking at this as a reciprocal investment rather than a mere loss or foregone revenue, Mr. Chair.
May
Go ahead.
add to the DOF. Actually, the greatest hindrance also of the country to having FDI is your security resilience. It adds a few basis points to the risk assessment of the country. So the more we are able to prove that we can enforce our law, the more an overall macro benefit will redound to the economy as a whole. And as we said, Your Honor, that the Visiting Forces Agreement, although without saying it directly, is also a reflection on the interest of countries to converge in other spheres. Definitely, it is an anchor, actually, for sustainable investments in one's economy on the macro level. On the micro level, of course, Your Honor, there is disposable income that circulates in the communities, particularly the recipient communities. And with our resilience efforts with the communities where other agencies like the BFAR also converge with us, then we can, although to a limited scale, tailor more resilient and more productive communities who were formerly marginalized. So there is a positive net inflow to the financials of the country, while the net expenditure, Your Honor, is also always carried already by our MOOE budget, which is approved by Congress. So basically, it is a net zero unless we send troops abroad for training, which sometimes is courtesy of the host community, and for schooling, of which we should invest our own.
All right, thank you, Secretary. Quickly, before we go back to the DNR, just to the Bureau of Customs, we have representative from Bureau of Customs here.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
All right. Gaya po ng paalala ko po sa inyo na nakaraang hearing, sana po ay mas paigtingin pa po ng Bureau of Customs ang pag-monitor ng mga puwapasok po na kargamento sa ating bansa para po maiwasan gawing dumping site ng Pilipinas ng other countries. Hindi po sapat na marinig na nasira po ang X-ray machines natin. Kung kailangan po ninyong palitan na yung mga yan, gagawin po natin. Malapit na po ang budget hearing. Please include that in your requests. Ano po, Bureau of Customs. Now, dito po sa Visiting Forces Agreement, Visiting Forces are granted significant tax and duty exemptions for fuel, oil, and explosives. Paano niyo po masisiguro, BOC, na ito po ay hindi po masyado makaka-apekto sa inyong revenue?
Your Honor,
Or will it greatly affect the revenue of the BOC?
Your Honor, hindi naman ho, no? Yung pagdating naman ho ng provisions under this particular agreement is related to it. Ibig sabihin ho, kung wala naman tong agreement na to, wala din naman hong papasok na, wala naman kami ine-expect na papasok na ganung revenue talaga. So wala naman ho sa projections din namin pagdating sa revenue impact ang mga provisions na ipapasok dito. In fact, Your Honor, the country benefit also from this agreement because some of the equipments, there are instances that some of the equipments, modern equipments that are used in particular exercises are left already, no, to our armed forces for their use. More or less, some of the equipments naman, if we really purchase it po under the AFP modernization law, may mga ilang equipments po talaga na exempt na dun. So, na-factor in na rin po namin talaga yung revenue loss dito. And hindi naman po ganun ka-significant, Your Honor.
Right, thank you.
Your
Asek
Honor,
Camarilla, go ahead,
May I
Secretary
just state
Teodoro.
something for the record? Nangyari na po last year and the year before. Actually, may net gain po tayo dahil nagkataon po na ang balikatan and other exercises ay tumugma kung kailan tayo may disaster. Kaya nakatulong pa ang visiting forces na hindi po mura. Napakamahal na mag-operate ng Osprey, ng C-130, and to deploy them with the doctrines that the foreign countries have, hindi po mura. Kaya ang laki po ng net savings ng gobyerno sa tulong kahit na let's say natin 2 o 3 araw, hundreds of millions of dollars na po yun. Sa tulong, lalo-lalo na nung may nangyari pong baha sa Naga and doon po sa iba't ibang communities and actually minomonitor din po namin ang situation dito po sa low pressure area o bagyo na darating at pumayag po ang US troops na mag-iwan po ng standby para makatulong sa atin dahil knowing fully well po na may ASEAN summit na kailangan din natin mag-provide ng air transport at sea transport ang Philippine Navy. Pinangunahan na po ni General Bronner si Admiral Paparo at pumayag naman po na just in case kakailanganin na tutulong po sila agad-agaran.
Thank you, Secretary Teodoro. May we hear now from the Department of Environment your presentation, please?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Your Honors. The Department of Environment does not have a specific did not prepare slides, but we express our general support to the provisions of the of both drafts of the SVFA. We in fact already submitted our certificates of concurrence to the Office of the President through the DND as required. However, since we have the opportunity also po, subject of course to the advice of the DND and the DFA, we ask that particular terms be considered to replace the following terms that that have been considered in the environmental provision aspects only if the
Excuse me,
Your Honor,
Mr. Chair, may I?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, our representative from the DNR, hindi ko makita po. May I see your name and your position and what department you belong to? Can you kindly state, are you from the legal division?
yes ma'am.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chair. May I have the floor?
Go ahead, please.
I heard him recommending that certain provisions be revised. DNR, were you present here 30 minutes ago
Yes, ma'am.
when we were discussing?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you hear our statement, my statement, the chair's, that on the process of negotiating for an agreement and the process of ratification and its concurrence?
Yes, Your Honor.
If so, why is DNR, unless I heard wrongly, suggesting that words or provisions be revised or changed? It's either we accept it, meaning we concur, it's already in the Senate, it's a last stretch. You're recommending if a certain period or comma needs to be changed and you are in disagreement or proposing a revision, that means you did not suggest it when you were backstopping the DND which is the primary agency in negotiation. Yan ang problema minsan ng gobyerno, ng executive. Huli na po kayo. So, I will give you the chance to say what you want to change. Maybe it will influence me and the chair to vote against it or not to hear it or not to concur in it. But nagpantig lang ang tenga ko nung narinig ko the DNR is suggesting to change this provision. The ship has sailed and the train has left the station. Why is the DNR only waking up now? You should have suggested that during the process of negotiations, unless, sir, you were not the one assigned and you had suggested that and they did not heed you. If so, then keep quiet. Because Secretary Chodoro said, yun nga yung frustration niya. Ano ba sila? Hindi naman yung mga tanga. Nagne-negotiate ang ating DND. Nandyan ang whole of government approach ito, negotiation. Tapos sa huli, sasabihin, hindi, mali. Dapat itong period ginawang comma. Ito dapat apostrophe. Ngayon lang. So it's either you agree or you disagree. And if you disagree, we want to be enlightened why. But if you are changing provisions, you are out of place in this room because it's already transmitted, it's concurred in. Now, if I heard wrongly because I was reading a document, then I will change my statement. I just felt that I just heard that.
Yeah,
So-
I agree with you, Senator Lauren. I mean, Department of Environment. I mean, this is not the right place. Ika nga, you're seeking amendments. I think sana bago pa yan umakyat sa Office of the President sa Executive, pinag-usapan na po ninyo yan ng Department of Environment, ng DND. Pero what is that you're talking about? What are these? Is that a provision? You disagree or you want change? What is it?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Your Honor. Actually, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources sent its legal opinion and along with the concurrence to the DND. However, our first request was that the term maritime zones be added to all instances of territorial limits or territorial jurisdiction, so that the provision of RA of the Philippine Maritime Zones Act on environmental protection for waters will also be applicable to the SVFA. So we generally, the DNR has already submitted its concurrence. However, the current text as it appears, it seems that our initial comments were not considered. But
Pause there. You're saying too much, which is good. So the term maritime zones, minungkahi nyo nung proseso ng negotiation, hindi pagka-ratify nila. Kasi tama si Sekibo. Pagka-ratify, concur, humihingi sa lahat ng ahensya, doon magsasalita lang ahensya, mali ito. Na-ratify na nga eh. So dapat nung nagne-negotiate pa, naka-embed ba kayo sa negotiations? Sinabi ba nyo sa DND kailangan gamitin yung maritime zones? At sinasabi nyo ngayon, hindi kayo sinundan ng DND, kaya nga nyo minumungkay sa Senado. So, is that a deal breaker, so to speak, using
Your
the
Honor,
term? Kung wala yung maritime zone,
yeah.
okay, ito. Nandyan ba ang maritime zone sa USVFA? Nandyan ba ang maritime zone sa Australian pa? Nandyan ba ang maritime zone sa Japan Reciprocal Access Agreement? And perhaps, but thank you for bringing it up, DOJ should also answer that. And without the term maritime zone, assuming DNR suggested that to the premier agency that negotiated for this, what does it mean and what are the possible interpretation or repercussions without the maritime zone words? Yes, attorney, at minungkahi po niya yan. Ano ka ni Secretary?
Your Honor,
Yes, thank you.
just to provide context and clarity, because I talked about this personally with my counterpart then and my professor, Professor Rafael Lotilla. He concurred in it with the advice that we take into consideration in the application of this law, this treaty rather. The And he suggested that we further examine the applicability of Republic Act 12064. Nowhere is it suggested that we introduce such term to the treaty. Anyway, Your Honor, the treaty has a general provision that it shall be in conformity with Philippine law. And since Republic Act 12064, the Maritime Zone Acts is part of the statute books, and it was enacted to indeed the
Environment very clear of Seclutilia. He says importance
Recording
of the
stopped.
applicability of this law.
Recording in
Why did you
progress.
stop recording while I'm talking? Who is that? Okay. Sino yun? Ah, automatic. Sige. Ah, okay. Kala ko pinapahinto ako eh. Sige. Sino ba siya? Kala ko ayaw ko pagsalitain eh. Okay, okay. AI na boses. Sige. So sinasabi niya, maliwanag, it underscores the importance of the Maritime Zones Act at saka bumoto tayo dyan. And this law is therefore applicable. But of course, any agreement, it is understood so that we also put it here. And when you sponsor it on the floor, any agreement must not contradict any law of the land, the Constitution, and any existing law of the land.
Yes, Your
thank
Honor,
you.
because we cannot, by virtue of executive action, actually amend any law. Although, you know, we cannot amend the law, Your Honor. It must be pursuant to the legislative authority you grant us. There are cases which hold that treaties supersede a law. But since you have to ratify, you have to concur in the treaty, it is deemed also amended. But in this case, there is no such thing because we have to act in accordance with law, Your Honor.
Eh bakit gusto ni DNR palitan yung provision?
Your Honor, maybe there was a miscommunication on their side as to what to advocate.
Kung DNR, gusto ko magsalita kayo at kung kayo ay, if you take back your word or if you correct yourself, then we would be happy to receive it. Kasi if we leave it on record in a Senate hearing, kaming dalawa dito, we could be blamed in the future. So the process of the concurrence in the ratification of a visiting forces agreement must be understood and followed by all. Because if something happens with the environment in the future or with in relation to our maritime laws, Senator Tulfo as chair and I will be blamed. Hindi kasi nila pinakinggan ng DNR eh. But they must understand that we are already in the period of concurrence. And therefore, we either just junk it and not sponsor it on the floor. It would be dependent on the chair. But there is no revision. This is not a bill or a resolution for enactment where we can amend. Huge.
Actually, we are aligned on, we were aligned before his appointment on a lot of initiatives, not only the Maritime Zones Law. And actually, Your Honor, because it's have hold the Philippine Maritime Zones Law as part of the mandate because it forms part of the whole package of UNCLOS entitlements. And it is an obligation actually to define our maritime zones under UNCLOS, which was a law passed by Congress, and there was some opposition to it because other parties felt academically that we were giving too much. However, we want to comply strictly with UNCLOS, and so the Maritime Zones Law was passed. And we don't have any problem with it. It is only a question of domain awareness and enforcement. And probably with the Maritime Zones Law, Your Honor, I think if I may venture to invite the chair to get the opinion of the Philippine Coast Guard, which is the primary agency responsible for the enforcement of the the Maritime Zones Act.
Mr. Secretary, have you informed or probably the Presidential Commission visiting forces about our maritime zones? Were they informed of Canada and New Zealand about our laws? Kasi parang it's really a big deal for DNR. Pero this is not tama po. This is not the right place anymore to contest or react.
Actually, Your Honor, it is just a reminder of the DNR for any lapse in conforming, the blame should rest squarely on the shoulders of the DND.
Sa treaties na ito.
Was signed in April and November.
2020 previous year.
So the New Zealand one was April, Your Honor.
April 2025.
Yes, and this refers to the New Zealand
Yes.
agreement.
So that's why in every
So
treaty or executive agreement, we need to see the timeline. So insofar as a New Zealand is concerned, It's April 2025.
which we signed it.
Already.
Yes, here in Manila,
I
Your
see.
Honor.
The comment of a government agency, in this case DNR, was in September.
Because,
What do you
Your
think it
Honor,
comments late?
no, Your Honor, because as I said, the repetitious process that
Because
we,
you asked for concurrence again. I
yes, Your
see.
Honor.
Sen Lauren, I think may problema ho tayo. Ang DNR nagka-problema because in this letter dated September 16, 2025 to Secretary Teodoro by Rafael Lutilla, the former secretary, it says here, dear Secretary Teodoro, this refers to a letter dated 4 July 2020 requesting the concurrence of this department of the ratification of the Philippine-New Zealand Status Visiting Forces Agreement. Please be informed that the Department of Environment and Natural Resources concurs with the ratification of the subject agreement, considering prior cabinet approval. So, ibig sabihin, nag-concur na po kayo eh. So, hindi ko alam kung mag-usap-usap na ho kayo. Sa bagay, Secretary, papalit-palit sila ay Senator, no,
Yes.
mga sekretary dyan. Hindi na malaman kung sino. Yung isa, yung babae, sinibak, yung lalaki, hindi rin nag-perform na maayos. Ang dami pa natin, itong Sierra Madre, dapat atupagin pa pala natin yan. Isa pa yan, yung bagong secretary niyo pakisabi, atupagin yung problema natin Sierra Madre.
Yes, thank you for that, Chair. So kung nag-concur na sa sulat nga, yung September 16 letter, why does a representative of a DNR asking for a revision of a provision of the Visiting Forces Agreement? Please answer. We will give you the time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Senator, Honorable Secretary. We submit, we are only reiterating our previous position that I agree with the Secretary that it is more of an advice to another cabinet official that they consider in the implementation of the SVFMA the application of the environmental protection provisions of the Philippine Maritime Zones Act, because that's the only act that as of now emphasizes environmental protection with regard to activities within the maritime zones, not just the territorial waters. So that's why we wrote that in our concurrence. It was not a qualification of the concurrence, but a sort of advice from a co-equal department.
Good. It's good that you bring it to the attention. It's good that you wrote. We are just concerned over the language that you used, that may we request that this provision be changed. If that is the request of the DNR, even if you are correct, and we agree actually with your point, we cannot revise a provision. So are you willing to take it back? We are not able to revise a provision because we're in the period of concurrence.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Senator. I admit that was ill-advised on my part. That is a manifestation of my my lack of experience with regard to Senate hearings. I am unlike all the other resource persons, under secretaries and assistant secretaries. I was just in my language a while ago, attempting to reinforce the language that Secretary Lutilla previously made to his to another member of the cabinet. So I'm withdrawing the language that I used, but I am still emphasizing the position of the DNR that in the implementation of the activities under the SOVFMA, the provision of environmental protection under the Maritime Zones Act be specifically considered.
So Chair, thank you for that, Attorney Pahe. We fully agree with the Lutilla letter of September 2025. And we fully agree, I agree with what you stated. And that is already contained in the agreement because as we mentioned, any treaty or agreement must not contradict or contravene the Constitution and any existing laws. So we appreciate you're bringing it to our attention and lalo na bigyan ng diin ang importansya ng kalikasan at ng ating teritoryo at maritime zone. I was simply concerned about the proposal of the DNR to revise a provision, and thank you for withdrawing that because we may be blamed in the future that we did not revise it without people not in the future, next generations, when they read the transcripts that why didn't they revise it? Pwede naman pala, hindi pwede kasi. But thank you for bringing it to our attention. We do not mean to pin you down. We just needed to clarify that process, which is a lesson learned for all government agencies to give it at the proper time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Lauren. Well, with the indulgence of the lady senator, we now therefore conclude our discussions on the status of visiting forces agreement, and unless if the gentle lady has further questions.
Just have a note, and since it's mostly the DND that will negotiate it, Mr. Chair, because the provision of this agreement had number 2, had the provision on dumping of waste, another matter. They commit themselves to prevent the dumping of waste and other matters to create hazards to human health. I believe that this was not present in other previous agreements, especially in 1999. If this was only included in the VFA, unless I miss it, no? Unless if there was a provision, let's say in 1999, that Subic and Clark, after the basing agreement, we assure you that we will have a full cleanup, etc., then I would have voted. So maybe moving forward, this agreement on indigenous people and the prevention of dumping of waste should be negotiated all the time and should be part of any future agreements. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. And may I underscore too that part of the arbitral award is the finding that China, by its reclamations, violated an international agreement on the protection of the maritime environment and corals. So we are bound to uphold that. Secondly, there is no waiver for environmental damage in case of dumping of waste in these VFAs. Notwithstanding that, Your Honor, even in the previous VFAs and previous treaties, actually, Philippine law on the protection of the environment is automatically read into those treaties. And it is an international engagement initiative. So if we go to court, so to speak, we have to go to court with clean hands. And we cannot be the violators of what we allege others to be violating.
So, Secretary, are you saying that it is understood among parties between the Philippines and particularly the New Zealand? Kasi doon po sa Article 16, Paragraph 2 of the SOVFA with New Zealand, kalagay po yata doon na walang pananagutan ng New Zealand sa environmental damage kung hindi sila fully informed ng Philippines environmental laws. Wala po ba ang probisyong ito sa SOVFA ng Canada pero nasa SOVFA naman ng Australia?
Ilalagay po natin sa lahat ng IRR. Kasi
okay, we'll adjust it. We'll put it in the IRR.
sa IRR po
Perfect.
natin ilalagay para dun ho mas detalyado lahat ng aming mga constraints. Because it is hindi po constraint, lahat ng obligasyon na kailangan ipatupad ng national government, particularly DND and AFP, ilalagay po namin sa IRR.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Well, with that, we now conclude the discussion on the status of visiting force agreement with Canada and New Zealand, and expect by next week, with the support of Senator Lauren, we'll send this to the floor for approval. We would like to thank Secretary Giboro, General Bronner for providing clarifications to our guests, Yusek Habulan. I understand that you guys have important matters to deal with, so you may be excused, and all those who are here regarding this visiting force agreement, you may now be excused. Thank you for joining us this morning. We now go to the ASEAN Treaty on Extradition, COMSEC.